I was supposed to start a little series this week talking about food, nutrition, all that jazz, episode every week, giving loads of advice. But I changed my mind. I don't want to talk about that. And it's because just from being on calls with clients and asking them how they're getting on with food, how they're getting on with calories, it's not an issue.
Get that. Could you try again?
Are you for real? Anyhow, I asked them how they're getting on with food, how they're getting on with calories, tracking for the ones who are tracking, and they're all flying it. They said it came as such a shock to them, with getting food ready. They thought that was going to be a big one that would let them down because they're so used to just grabbing, like frozen food or whatever, and it has come so natural to them and they're benefiting so much from it. So I was like, okay, what is it then that's letting people down and stopping people from achieving their goals? And it is mastering your mind every single time. You can eat well, you can train well, but if you can't master your mind, if you can't master all those limited beliefs that are coming around in your head, if you can't master a bit of self-belief and learning to say no, to stop people pleasing, doing things for other people, you might get to that end goal and still be like, why do I still feel shit? And every single time it's down to how you speak to yourself and your mindset. So let's get started with episode 1, and today's call has given me episode 1. So a woman who was working with me had said someone passed a comment to her and said, here's Natasha starting another fad diet. And she said it kind of really hurt, and it really kind of, made her feel kind of shit about herself, and you can see how easy you could let that affect you. The first thing you could do is you might start holding yourself back from improving yourself every day. You might start holding yourself back of not being able to maybe tell family and friends how good you're getting on and how great you're feeling, because it's nearly seen as bad, like they're kind of looking down on you. You nearly almost start to feel bad for looking after yourself and looking after your well-being and, making a change. And essentially what happens there is your brain turns into Google. Once you're in that frame of thought, it's going to start firing more reasons at you. It just wants to give you a reason for everything. So it'll start saying, you're not worthy of doing that, like that. You're not worthy of looking after yourself, or you're not worthy of eating healthy. Like, go back to your old ways, stop being stupid. Like, all these things will start going through your head, and that's where you find yourself slipping because of what someone else has said. You have to realize what you do with your life and how you want to live it is absolutely no one's business. They are not standing in your shoes. Whatever choices you make are your choices. And for anyone who does pass comments like that or says things like that when you're trying to do something positive for yourself, to look after yourself, but 9 times out of 10 it is an insecurity on themselves, because they can't face to look after themselves that way. They can't face trying to look after maybe their body and their mind a little bit more, because they're trying to ignore it so much. So when they see you doing well, it's a jealousy thing, and that's what happens. And when you get yourself into the frame of thought that you're not doing that and wrong, you start to kind of have empathy for them, because you're the one pushing yourself out of your comfort zone to make yourself a better person. They're passing remarks about it and seeing it as jealous. You have to feel a sense of empathy for them rather than seeing it as something that you're doing wrong. You're doing absolutely nothing wrong. It's something on them that they need to work on in their own head, and that is constantly the way you have to be thinking when little things are said to you. For this lady, food wasn't the problem. She was absolutely loving tracking her food. She was loving tracking the calories. She was loving how unbelievable she was feeling from eating so well, that it was just a choice to her. It was out of habit. She loved doing it. And you see how easily that was all taken away from her based on what someone else's opinion and what they had to say. And that is why it is so important to be able to have that sense of control over your mindset and how you kind of think about things and let them filter in. Do you let them take over and impact your life? And that's where it leads to, like, self-sabotage. Google is, our brain that I call Google is firing all these reasons of how shit we are, and we're like, yeah, do you know what, we give in, and then we just kind of go back to old ways, and we're like, yeah, I better go back to normal, I can't, and we lose that belief about ourselves. So that's why I want to start this series instead. I think it's going to benefit so much more, because the big thing here is we cannot control what anyone else says or does. Their opinions on how we're living our life are completely irrelevant. And I've heard it myself over the years. I've heard people say, I bet you can't eat that because it's bad for you. And then I nearly feel like I have to eat it just to prove to them that I can eat it, but in my own head I'm like, no, I don't want it, because I know how I just don't want that right now. I just don't feel like it. If I want it another day, I'll have it. But I would do it to kind of prove something to them when they are not in my shoes. We can't stop smart comments or smart remarks if they're said. We can't control what anyone else does, but what we can do is pause and take a step away for a second before we let it completely beat us down. Ask yourself, what do you want for your life? What makes you happy? Is their opinion actually even relevant here because they're not in your shoes? And maybe that's something that they're kind of maybe insecure about. So maybe just having that bit of empathy for them and realize everything you're doing is okay because it's based on what makes you happy and what you want to do with your life. Only person you should ever be trying to impress is yourself.